Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by the great folks over at Bet365. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I'm joined by Harmon Dial. My camera's dead. I found out yesterday, or this like 5 minutes before we went live, that my camera's dead. So I'm back on laptop camera, like the good old days. Not the good old days. I do not like laptop camera. It's way nicer having an actual camera.
I'm not gonna lie. I was gonna say maybe there's something about the angle, or is the blue lighting a little bit different? Something was different that I was like, this is kind of a vibe.
Not a vibe, Harm. I'm on my laptop camera and I don't like it. I'm like slouching in my chair.
The quality doesn't look any worse.
Okay.
Yeah,
It actually looks a little bit clearer.
The quality's good, but the framing is way off.
I built the studio with the camera in mind, so now I'm like, I gotta like slouch and whatever. Anyways, let's get to it. We've actually got a busy show today, so let's get right to it. I want to tell everybody to our Super Chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Lots of stuff going on right now, Harm. The last time you and I talked was Tuesday, and since then we've had a Calder Cup final game that we're going to talk about. We had a Stanley Cup final game that ultimately ended the Stanley Cup final as the Florida Panthers take it in 6 games. All of our predictions were wrong. Jacob, did you pick the Panthers?
I wanted to, but I ended up sticking with the Oilers.
So all of our predictions were wrong. Panthers in 6. I don't have many takes on this series other than just like, I don't think there needs to be any existential crisis in Edmonton. I don't think there needs to be this, oh, we've got to go do this offseason. Aside from maybe like, oh, we'd like to upgrade in goal. That's fine, but that's been something we've been saying for years. I think ultimately the Oilers are a great team. They got hot at the right time. We all thought they were going to get it done. But the Panthers they are the best team in the NHL. I think it's just simple. You can say that. They are the best team in the NHL. And the Oilers are a great team, but they got beat by a better one. And I don't think there's much else you can do sometimes. And again, I was thinking of the Chicago Blackhawks, right? That run they went on and how the Canucks could never get past them. The Canucks didn't go and say, oh, we got to blow it up. We got to build our team like Chicago's building their team or whatever, right? Like the Canucks didn't have any, it was frustrating, but they didn't have any sort of, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to beat these guys? They just kept going with their plan and working through it with their team. And eventually they broke through, obviously, in 2011. But for the Oilers, I think it's something similar where you just have to say, like, yeah, right now it's the Panthers league. The Panthers are the dynasty. They are the best team in the NHL. But that's not going to last forever, you hope. And I think that's ultimately the mindset that Edmonton needs to have.
I mean, you want this dynasty apparently to last forever based on what you were saying,
All I was saying is it's good for the league, okay? And that's a good time for your mic to cut out and let me interrupt you. All I was saying was it's good for the league to have a villain. But let me ask you this, okay? All the Canucks fans that were rooting for Florida, do you feel good about it right now? Do you feel good that the Florida Panthers are just the best team in the league and that really you could just fast forward the entire regular season because they're just going to win anyway? Do you feel good about that?
Well, you're claiming it's good for the league, yet the Cup final ratings tanked in the States, and the overall playoff TV ratings in the States were quite disappointing. So I would dispute that. But look, I largely agree with your take. There doesn't need to be a huge panic level, but there is some level of urgency in my mind, just because the gap between the Panthers and the Oilers became wider this year than it was in last year's Cup final. I didn't think it was going to be this wide. Obviously, I thought the Oilers were going to get it done, but a few things happened. I mean, number one, McDavid was held in check at 5-on-5, only scored 2 5-on-5 points across the entire Cup final, and the Oilers were ultimately outscored 8-3 with McDavid on the ice at 5-on-5. Now, the underlying numbers were a little bit more favorable, but the scoring chances were basically even when McDavid was on the ice at even strength. And you also have to account for score effects, where the Oilers were trailing the entire series. So being even in scoring chance share just flat out is not good enough. And that's a problem because the logic and formula behind the Oilers toppling the Panthers required them convincingly winning the matchup at the top of the lineup, because they knew the Panthers were always going to have a depth advantage. So I'm not pinning this Cup final loss on McDavid by any means, obviously, but he needed to do more damage. But there are also obviously issues
on the back end that they didn't face in the first 3 rounds. Panthers obviously crushed them in the middle 6 battle. They had better goaltending as well. The bigger concern now is you've got to pay Bouchard. You're going to pay McDavid coming up soon. Draisaitl's extension is obviously kicked in starting next season. They've got cap issues to work through, and some of their, like, this is an older group as far as the supporting cast. Hyman's getting older. RNH is getting older. Ekholm is 34 now. Kane's turning 34 in the summer. They're still by far, in my opinion, the best team in the Western Conference. But as far as measuring up to the Panthers, they're going to have to nail this offseason in a way that they didn't nail last offseason, where imagine how much better things would look if they had Dylan Holloway. That's the exact kind of player that they could have used in the Cup final, because when Hyman went down and RNH was playing through that broken hand, as we've now come to find out he was playing through, they just didn't have enough top 6 wingers to support McDavid and Draisaitl.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And we're gonna talk about the Oilers' fallout from all of this as well. But there were some interesting comments from Connor McDavid today, and we're gonna save that for anyone else. I don't know how much I want to dive into the fallout today, because really, I think the more interesting thing for me and the more interesting thing for Canucks fans is that the NHL hot stove is finally starting to heat up. We were waiting for it. We were saying the trades aren't going to start, the transactions aren't going to start until the Cup final ends, and now it's over. And here we are. We've got stuff to talk about. We're going to, like I said, we'll talk about the McDavid comments and anyone else, but I did want to talk about the transactions because there's been quite a few things that came up today or in recent days as well. First, you had Nashville acquiring Eric Haula from the New Jersey Devils for Jeremy Hansel and a 4th-round pick. Low acquisition cost, not a huge deal. We don't have to dive into it too much, but it's still an interesting one for Nashville. Again, that team struggled mightily last year. It feels a little bit like reshuffling the deck chairs a little bit, but what did you think of that trade?
It was capped on for the Devils. Clear win for them. At 3.15, Haula wasn't producing enough offense. And the Devils' problem this past season was they didn't have enough dynamic offensive creators outside of Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, and Timo Meier. After that, there was just a colossal drop-off. Sure, Dawson Mercer would chip in here and there, but by and large, their middle 6 and their bottom 6, especially at 5-on-5, was abysmal. I was just on the PDO cast earlier today with Dmitry Filipovich, and he pointed out that they generated something to the tune of 1.6 goals for per hour in non-Jack Hughes and non-Jesper Bratt minutes. And Eric Haula was part of that issue. He's a heart and soul guy. He can win draws, but wasn't chipping in enough offense. The cap hit was bloated. The Devils got to re-sign Luke Hughes this summer. This works to manufacture cap room for them to go out and upgrade their top 6, upgrade that sort of supporting cast offensively. This is clearly a win for them. And Nashville, I'll be honest, they're in no man's land right now. Hall's not really going to move the needle for them. And between that and Bunting, who they acquired at the deadline in exchange for Tommy Novak, just a couple of odd transactions that ultimately doesn't hurt them because Hall only has 1 year left on his deal, and the Predators still have so much cap space that they weren't going to spend all of it anyway. But they're caught in a no man's land right now.
My personal favorite of the recent transactions, Ryan Donado signs a 4-year deal at $4 million exactly with the Chicago Blackhawks. Joking aside, obviously, for those that don't get it, that was something that what did I say that back in November? I was like, I think Ryan Donado is going to get a 4x4.
So that was like the top of my list. I have a list of all these things that Quads has asked me to write down, all of his takes. And yes, Ryan Donado will get $4 million in free agency. And I'm pretty sure you even said like a 3 or 4 year deal. You nailed it.
It was very funny.
I'll go through the rest of these, by the way, because some of these might come up in the next couple of weeks.
Sure, refresh everyone's memory.
So Gabe Velarde's next contract is $6 million or less. One of Lankinen or Demko gets traded. And then you followed that up like a few weeks later by saying Shelov's, Lankinen, Demko won't all be at training camp. So now Shelov's, I guess, is in it. So we'll get rid of one of Lankinen or Demko, because now we've included Shelov's in the trio.
Sure.
And then Elias Pettersson gets either under 60 points or over 82 points next year.
That's a fire. Wow, these are fire.
You have
takes.
Brad
I'm like nodding along. I'm like,
Brad
wow, these are all
Marchand.
great takes.
Brad Marchand stays in Florida, so we'll know that one in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the end of the list.
I think all of those are coming true.
No,
I gotta be honest.
They're
All of
not.
them.
Florida's not getting under $6 million now. Fabian Zetterlund just got 4.2 something.
I won't lie. The Fabian Zetterlund extension did make me think of that immediately. It's like, ooh.
And I doubt Marchand stays in Florida. I
All right, we'll
really
see.
doubt it. They can only
see.
afford to keep 2 of the 3 out of Bennett, Ekblad, and Marchand. And if you're Marchand, why would you not go and chase the bag? He's been a criminally underpaid player in the prime of his career. He was a 6.1-ish cap hit kind of guy. He's never gotten a huge payday. This is an opportunity for him, one final contract to get. Some insiders have been speculating an $8 million AAV on the open market. Why would you not go out and get that?
Okay, that makes it a little different, I guess. First of all, I don't think he gets that much. But second of all, I'll give you the number one reason. Because it's fun to play in Florida. Florida looks like the most fun team to be a part of, aside from winning the Cups. Obviously, that helps. Look at that facility they've got. Did you see this? This facility that they've got with all the TVs and the sauna and the pool and all this stuff that they've got. My goodness, they do have the best, and I don't even want to call it a practice facility, just like player facility in the entire league. They have the nicest one. It just looks like so much fun to play for the Panthers. Nobody recognizes you on the street. You're in a no tax state. I think that's why. If you're asking,
it's really appealing, but the problem
Florida?
is they've got around $19 million right now, and so Bennett, Marchand, and Ekblad are UFAs. On top of that, they got to either re-sign Schmidt or replace him on the back end. They've got to re-sign 1 or 2 more fourth liners, and they've got to re-sign RFA Mackie Samoskevich, who's already a plug and play middle 6 forward for them. It was really good for them in the regular season, actually. But the point being, they can't afford to bring back all 3 of Bennett, Marchand, and Ekblad unless they move out bigger contracts. So, and then if you're to prioritize those 3, I think Bennett has to be at the top of that list in terms of who's the most important one of those guys to retain. And then after that, Ekblad was so passionately talking about how he bleeds for the Florida Panthers, how he doesn't want to play anywhere else. He sounds like a guy that's willing to take a steep hometown discount. So that kind of leaves you with Marchand, who, again, he hasn't really gotten the bag in free agency before. So this is an opportunity for him to cash in. He's already got the cup now. Like, I don't know.
I just think it's a great place to be.
You're not wrong. It's an amazing place to be, but money also talks.
That's true. That's very true. Okay. Let's get to. Wait, was there any other transactions? Yeah, okay. Yes, this last one. Sorry. Somehow we went from Ryan Donado to, because we were talking about my takes. This other one that came down this morning. Matt Duchaine signs to stay with Dallas Stars for 4 more years at $4.5 million annually. This is a hometown discount. This is a team-friendly deal. Rick Dhaliwal reported today that Duchaine would have been high on the Canucks list had he made it to free agency. It's no secret the Canucks need a second-line center. We've talked about Duchaine on the show before. Before anyone gets in the chat, yes, we know if the Canucks were to sign Duchaine, if they were actually make it happen, that's a $6 million cap hit at least. Like, you're looking at a lot more than $4.5 million. This obviously takes a target off the board. Great news for P.S. Suitor, but we talked about that angle a lot. What was your reaction to Duchaine signing in Dallas? And would he have made sense for the Canucks?
Yeah, he would have made sense for the Canucks. Of course, yeah, a couple of disappointing playoff runs for him now with the Stars, but he led them in the regular season with 82 points. And most importantly, he did it despite Tyler Seguin, his most common line mate, missing most of the regular season. Now, he still had an opportunity to play with Mason Marchment, and Marchment's a good second line winger, but he's not the primary sort of driver. And so to me, Duchaine, like, it isn't just that the Canucks need top 6 producers, guys who can put up points. It's players who can create offense by themselves and elevate other players, right? They don't need more Jake DeBrusk type scorers. DeBrusk is a really good player, but he is sort of reliant on other players to get him the puck. He's not going to be able to manufacture a lot of chances himself. So ideally, when the Canucks go out and acquire a top 6 forward or 2 this summer, you can find players that can manufacture offense on their own. That's what Matt Duchaine does. And look, the $4.5 million cap hit is such a steal, right? Advantage there, not just because he really loves playing there and playing in that market, but no state income tax as well must have factored into the equation, because if Duchaine hit free agency, it wouldn't have surprised me if he could have commanded a $7 million cap hit, given how weak the center market was, or even 7.5 for that matter. So that's a win for the Stars. They got other pieces that they're going to have to move around on the chessboard to open up cap room, because they now have by far the worst cap crunch in the NHL. But that's something you deal with after. Probably means Granlund's going to walk in free agency, and probably means you have to trade or buy out Dumba, and Marchment's probably on his way out. But no brainer to second line center who can play in your top six for $4.5 million in this cap climate is a W for the Stars.
Yep, absolutely. I don't have much to add. I really don't have much to add other than the fact, like I said, great news for P.S. Suitor as he gets ready to hit the free agent market. I tweeted out Suitor mania today. Big thing I wanted – yeah, go on.
Quickly, because we've been talking about some of these recent transactions, I'm not including the Duchaine one because he was an 82-point player, so he's different. But when it was announced that the cap was going to skyrocket, I was really curious to see exactly what the trickle-down effect was going to be for players, and how it would also impact sort of the trade market, and what we're seeing. One of the things that I wasn't sure on was how much it would impact the middle-class players. What I thought was, all right, how much of this money is going to go to players that occupy middle of the lineup roles, whereas how much of it is going to go to like your top lineup stars just get paid that much more, and there's a bump in the middle class, but not as much. We're quickly figuring out that the middle class is going to get a significant bump, right? The Donado contract, Fabian Zetterlund, who's usually in and around the 20 goal, 40 point range, signing for around 4.2. Out in Edmonton, Trent Frederick, rumored to be getting an 8-year extension in $3.5 to $4 million range. The fact that there was a suitor for Eric Holla coming off a down year as a $3.15 million player, that is a very clear sign that the middle class of players is, in fact, going to get paid. In some ways, for the Canucks, they already have a lot invested in their middle class, which can be viewed as a positive in the sense that if Höglander and Joshua bounce back, all right, they're cost controlled in the $3 million range. So that's a positive. They proactively took care of Drew O'Connor. So you're hoping that, all right, if he can be more the offensive player that he was in 2023-24 with Pittsburgh, then all right, you could net some surplus value there. And if Filipino can stay healthy and be a 50-point guy for you, 45, 50 points, and all of a sudden $4.5 million looks like pretty good value to have locked up long-term. But that's a very clear takeaway through these transactions is a lot of players in that $3 to $5 million range are getting paid a lot. And the Canucks already have a bunch of those guys locked up.
Could the trade value of those guys go up a bit?
Yeah. I mean, again, the fact that Holla went for a positive value coming off a year when he couldn't produce offensively. Dmitry Filipovich pointed out that there was a stretch in the season for 28 games where he didn't produce a single point.
Nice.
So normally in previous off seasons, Holla's probably a player that you have to attach sweetener to in order to move. Whereas now the Devils were able to pick up, I believe it was a 4th round pick.
Trent Frederick, rumored to be an 8-year deal, south of $4 million, but north of 3.5, somewhere in between there. Trent Frederick gets an 8-year deal with the Edmonton Oilers, waiting to announce that. But Trent Frederick, 8-year deal. Oilers fans don't seem very happy with this one.
Yeah, look, you have to give him grace for the playoff run. I know he only scored 1 goal and 4 points in 22 games. He was mostly a non-factor, but he played through a pretty significant, I think it was an ankle injury, and we knew he was injured at the time he was dealt to the Oilers in the first place. So I'm going to assume that his play with the Oilers down the stretch in playoffs was largely hindered for injury-related reasons, and I'm going to assume he bounces back to being the 17 to 18 goal guy that he was the previous 2 seasons in Boston. But even with that context in mind, look, I can see a scenario where in a vacuum, Frederick could live up to a $3.5-ish million cap hit, close to $4 million. But the problem I see is the Oilers are so crunched for cap space because they have to pay for Bouchard. And to me, rather than investing more money into their bottom 6 for another third line player, I would have rather preserved that cap space and then gone out and tried to either move Arvidsson's contract or buy him out, try and move Evander Kane's contract, try and move Adam Henrique's contract. And look, you're not going to realistically move all of those guys, but as many of them as you can, and you open up cap room, and you use that cap space to upgrade the goaltending position, you use that cap space to instead go for a true, no doubt about it, top 6 winger rather than another third line contributor. I just don't think that's the most efficient way for the Oilers to invest the very limited cap resources they have this summer.
All right, let's get to our poll question. It's about how badly I want the Canucks to make a trade. I am dying to see a trade. And look, Jim Rutherford, obviously he didn't know that the Abbotsford Canucks were going to go on this run. None of us did. But Jim Rutherford told us, Harm, he told us that, most of our work is probably going to be done before free agency, and we'll see what we have left in free agency. We're 11 days away from free agency. I want moves. I want stuff to happen. Speaking of free agency, I want to tell everybody about the Daily Faceoff free agency special. Our man, Tyler Yaremchuk, who you've heard me do live shows with before. Tyler does such a great job. He is going to be hosting it. It is live at 8 a.m. Pacific, 3 straight hours of chaos, contracts, and full-blown free agent frenzy. Hosted, like I said, by Tyler Yaremchuk with analyst Jeff Merritt, Colby Cohen, and Johnny Lazarus. Another friend of the show, and Johnny Lazarus there. Puckpedia founder Hart Levine, and player panel of Carter Hutton and Matthew Barnaby, plus several of our reporters from across the Nation Network. You might hear me, you might hear Jeff Patterson. We'll see what the Canucks end up doing on free agency day. Every signing, every trade, every what the hell are they thinking moment, they're breaking it all down live, giving you the real-time impact, the wild predictions, and maybe a few chirps along the way. Make sure you tune in July 1st, 8 a.m. Pacific time. All right, let's get to our poll question, which is brought to you by our friends at Pacific Toyota Dealers, who want to tell you about the 100% electric Toyota BZ4X, an SUV packed with plenty of space. The BZ4X can handle any terrain and can take you from the city to the slopes. It's backed by the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're driving a Toyota. And if you're driving a BZ4X, you get access to HOV lanes, even if you're driving alone. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get a $5,000 incentive, and now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X LE all-wheel drive from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. All right. Our poll question. Do you think the Canucks, them being the Vancouver Canucks organization, will make a trade before Abbotsford's Calder Cup run is over? The options were yes and no. 81.2% of voters say no. 18.8% say yes. I was in the yes crew just because I'm trying to will it into existence. I want a trade to happen. Don't give me everything in the span of 3 days. Give me content for the week. Come on. Let's get a trade going here. And hey, apparently Minnesota wants a roster player for Marco Rossi. Perfect. Trade that first round pick and trade a roster player that's not on the Abbotsford Canucks. No problem. Get that trade done. Let us dissect it. Dear Jim, this is my wish. This is my only wish. Harm's muted. Doesn't know he's muted. There he is.
I was gonna say when Bill Guerin in that report apparently is looking for a roster player. I don't think that means any roster player. I don't think that means you can just toss in Teddy Blueger that's gonna make the proposal cross the finish line.
Add Nils Höglander. Add what you need to get the bar up. This is how trades work, Harm. I've told you.
Yeah, it's like when you're trading in NHL 25. You just keep tossing assets until the trade bar goes all the way green.
Bill, what if we told you we were giving you a 6th round pick as well? It's a 2029 6th round pick, but it's still a 6th round pick. Okay. So Harm, what do you think here? Do you think the Canucks are going to make a trade before this runs over? Because I don't think they are.
depends on how long the series goes. I would, and again, this isn't based on inside information. It's tough to get intel this time of year. I would expect most of the Canucks activity, if I had to guess, to come in the middle of the week. The draft, I believe, starts on Friday. So just prior to that, maybe on the Wednesday-ish, like middle next week is when I would anticipate the Canucks potentially making their first move. And when you look at Abbotsford's schedule for the Calder Cup final, if the season is, or if the Cup final is wrapped up within 6 games, the Calder Cup is going to be awarded by Monday, June 23rd. So that will have finished before that midweek window. So I lean towards no as well.
Just wrap it up, boys. Get it done on Saturday. I'll be there for Game 5. Now, here's a question for you. I see a lot of people on the ice after the Stanley Cup is awarded. I've recently found out that a lot of those people are media. Do I get to go on the ice if I'm there at the Abbotsford Centre when they win the Calder Cup?
No, because only media members that supported the "We Want the Cup" chant are allowed.
Dude, I'll be waving a towel if I'm allowed on the ice. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. No, I hope so. I'm going to take a lot of pictures. I'll take a lot of pictures if I'm down on the ice.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think media should be allowed on the ice. Is that a hot take? Media,
well, but you do interviews and stuff,
on ice
right?
interviews.
Yeah.
It's not just so they can
Quad,
see the celebration.
Yeah, if you're on the ice, you're not on the ice just to hang out with PDG and Victor Mancini and talk about Commercial Drive. No, you're on the ice to interview them and post stuff for Canucks Army. Like part of your job.
I'm gonna do an interview with Phil. We're gonna do Canucks Convo live from the on ice Calder Cup celebration. And obviously the parade as well.
No, I'm banning you from the parade. I'm gonna make a special request.
No. Dear Ben. Okay, in all seriousness, yeah, they took care of business in Game 3, and I think the big thing for me, Harm, as I was watching the game and as I read the Farmies as well, the big thing for me was that they were lucky to get out of Charlotte with that series tied 1-1. And I shouldn't say lucky. They're fortunate to have Archer Shelovs, but it was the Archer Shelov show. They got heavily outshot. We've had this conversation already. Game 3, it was the other way around. It was them just all over Charlotte. And I think that's the part that really weighs for me, where I'm like, okay. And I know I was joking around earlier and I was like, get it done in 5, boys. But it's like, man, you hear how loud that Abbotsford crowd is and how the players are so clearly feeding off it. I know it's a cliche to be like, look how loud it is in there, but the players are so clearly feeding off it. Like it's like Rogers Arena during the 23-24 playoffs for the Vancouver Canucks. They were very clearly feeding off the energy in the building, and you can tell that that's happening for these Abbotsford players as well. Call me stupid, say as cliche as you want. You're stupid if you don't think that. Maybe not. Maybe that's a hard take, but I think players are feeding off it. And I mean, players are always going to say, oh yeah, the crowd plays a big role, but it's like, it's pretty undeniable when they go score. They score a goal, crowd gets behind them, and then they go score another one, and then they go score another one. It's like, to me, that's all the crowd.
Quads, you're 100% right. And when you look at Game 3 specifically, Charlotte opened the scoring in the first. Abbotsford ended up with 6 goals. They didn't score until about 7 minutes into the second period. But if you look at who scored that goal, it was Sammy Blais. And we all know what Sammy Blais has been doing all postseason long. We've talked about it. If you follow Canucks Army on social, you've seen all the clips of him yapping at other players and pumping up the crowd. Like, he scored that first goal. That building erupts. And then look at what Abbotsford does in the third period. Carlson, Baines, PDG, Baines again, Tristan Nielsen. Like, they absolutely took that game over after Sammy Blais scored. The crowd was into it. I don't think anyone was quiet for even a second in that third period. It was just cheering and chanting, and I think they were doing the wave in the Abbotsford Centre. And look what it did for that team against a Charlotte team that clearly looked tired. We talked about it with J-Pat. Like, hey, is this something for a team that hasn't been out of the time zone in 5 months? Is it something that Abbotsford could take advantage of? And they absolutely did in the third period, thanks in large part to Sammy Blais, the crowd, and then, of course, Linus Karlsson and Arshdeep Baines, who both had their best games of the playoffs.
Yep, absolutely. You put it very well, Jacob. So like I said, game 4 tonight, game 5 when Abbotsford looks to wrap up the series, hopefully, is on Saturday, and we'll be breaking those games down. Obviously, we have a show tomorrow, so we'll be breaking down game 4 tomorrow, and then game 5 Saturday. And I'm hoping it ends and that I get to go on the ice. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm gonna get on the ice. I'm just gonna hang out. Okay, let's do it. You guys ready to play the feud?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Jacob, hit my music. All right, you cut the music now.
I'm fading it out. Come on, man. Let me.
It just
let me do my
restarted.
thing.
What do you mean you're fading it
I
out?
know. Well, I had to move cameras around on our screen. You know, it's not easy. You're lucky
He's
you don't have
playing
to do all
and
of it.
producing the game.
Yeah,
Oh, whoa! I'm producing the game now. Let's be clear.
producing the
Jacob's
show.
gonna-
I'm
Jacob's
still
got to turn on some
producing the
music.
show.
Jacob didn't compose that music, Harm.
Yeah, okay. And you did, right?
No,
Obviously.
I'm just saying it's not that hard. It is hard to make the surveys, though. I will give Jacob credit for that. I don't know how he did this every week.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna do
for
it
a
next
year.
week. I'm gonna do it next week because there's a couple very good write-ins that I really want to read to you guys. So I'm definitely doing it next week. But we got a good survey. I'm your man, David Quadrelli. Welcome back to another edition of Canucks Conversation Family Feud. For those of you who are new here, Jacob is gonna go first, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Harm went first last week.
Okay.
And we won. So
You guys
it's
pick.
up to Harm.
I
I'm
would
fine
put
either
Harm
way.
first, but it's up to you.
Whatever you want, Jacob. You're
I'll clean it up again. I'll go second.
sick.
Okay. So Harmondale is going to go first. He is going to have 25 seconds to answer 5 questions. We asked 100 Canucks Conversation listeners and viewers to give us some answers to these questions. And some of them are actually really good ones created by other Canucks Convo listeners. So I was really happy to see that. And we're going to have a good survey. It is a really good survey. You're going to have a lot of fun. Harmondale, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Remember, we asked 100 Canucks Convo listeners.
Do you have a timer going? How's this gonna work?
Yeah, I got a timer. It begins as soon as I
Okay.
finish reading the first question. Okay. We asked 100 Canucks Convo listeners. And you know what? I'm going to start with this one because it's the longest one. And I want to remind you before I read it that the answers all came in before the Stanley Cup was awarded this week.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Here we go. Which former Canuck who still plays elsewhere in the NHL would you most want to see win the Stanley Cup at some point?
Chris Tanev.
How many points will Elias Pettersson tally next season?
80.
How many Canucks forwards will finish with over 60 points next season?
2.
Name a former Canuck who has won the Cup in the last 5 years.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
What is the best BC vacation spot?
Okanagan.
Nicely done. Nicely done. I will tally this up. You guys kill some time. Jacob's got to know. Oh, yeah, I forgot Jacob can't hear us.
You forgot to tell him at the start of
Yeah, you're lucky I know what I'm doing and I took my headphones off.
Sorry. Okay, let me tally this up.
Jacob, I think we got this one.
Okay.
I think we got this one in the bag.
Okay,
Don't want to speak too soon, obviously, but
I'm
Hey,
on
again-
question.
Again, Harm, like last week, I felt like we did a really good job. Like I didn't get buzzed once. We were on the same wavelength. I knew what you were answering. We cleaned up all the number ones. I'm confident.
yeah, and you think quickly on your feet, which is the biggest thing. Especially going second, that's important. And I think these questions will be up your alley.
I can see Quads. Looks like he's doing some math, staring at his laptop screen. It's not easy, is it, Quads? Having to get all the totals done up and
Easy, settle down. Here's what I did. I was focusing too much on reading the questions to Harm as soon as he was done answering, and I did not clock any of his answers. So I went to go put in like what he did. So I just muted my mic and listened back.
Yeah.
I've got the tally.
Okay,
I've
what
got
did
some
you do?
good news for you, Jacob. I can make these surveys a little harder, but Harmon got you 158 points.
There we go. All right.
He
Attaboy,
got
Harm.
all but 2 number 1 answers. So yes, I do need to make the survey a little harder, but
Yeah, I think so.
I'm happy you guys are winning. It's good. Okay, Jacob. Let's see if you can get it done. You've got 30 seconds. If you answer with one of Harmon's answers, I'm going to scream at you because
Okay.
I don't have a buzzer. And yeah, let's go. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
All right. Which former Canuck who still plays elsewhere in the NHL would you most want to see win the Stanley Cup at some point?
Pass.
How many points will Elias Pettersson tally next season?
75.
How many Canucks forwards will finish with over 60 points next season?
2.
Eh.
3.
Name a former Canuck who has won the Cup in the last 5 years.
Gustav Forsling.
What is the best BC vacation spot?
Penticton.
Which former Canuck who still plays elsewhere in the NHL would you most want to see win the Stanley Cup at some point?
Jacob Markstrom.
Nicely done. Okay, I can already tell you guys won.
Yeah.
I'll tally it up though.
Jacob,
I'll tally it up.
Yeah.
It was good too that you passed on the first one.
Yeah, I needed some time to think about that one.
Especially because we didn't need a ton of points. It would have been easy, especially since it's only your second time playing, to really think about that one long and hard and not leave yourself with enough time to answer the other questions.
Again, Quads didn't tell me I was allowed to pass. I just know because I've hosted this program many times.
Okay. All right. Point breakdown. Jacob got 105 points, bringing your guys' total to 263. Nicely done, gentlemen. Play yourself some music. Put your graphic up. Whatever you'd like to do. Great work. Great work, guys.
Yeah, that one was a little easy.
Yeah, it's okay. I've already started to plan next week's. It will be tougher, but yeah, it's okay. That one was a little too easy, but it was fun. It was still
All right, let's go through it. The fans love when we break down each question.
Absolutely. So we'll start with which former Canuck who still plays elsewhere in the NHL would you most want to see win the Stanley Cup at some point? Again, I clarified for both of you that this was taken before the Stanley Cup was just awarded. Chris Tanev was the number one answer with 38 points. Harmon came in with that one. Bo Horvat was the number two answer with 21 points. Jacob actually came in with the number 5 answer of Jacob Markstrom. That earned just 4 points, but it was okay, as you'll find out later. Some other guys who got votes there, JT Miller, Troy Stetcher as well. How many points will Elias Pettersson tally next season? Harmon came in with the number 1 answer. Again, this was a range. It was 80 to 89. That was worth 45 points for Harmon. So really, really nice work there.
So that was another one where I figured Harm was probably in the point per game range. So I wanted to come in under that.
Yeah. And yours, which was in 70 to 79 range, that was worth 18 points.
There we go.
That was the number 3 answer too, we should mention.
What was the number 2 answer?
Number 2 answer was 90 to 99.
Damn,
Optimistic.
okay,
Yep.
Yeah. How many Canucks forwards will finish with over 60 points next season? As of now, they have just one on their roster who has ever finished with over 60 points, he being Elias Pettersson. The number 1 answer was 3 with 51 points. Jake got that on his second guess after I buzzed him for coming up with 2, which Harmon answered, and that earned 25 points. 4 was the number 3 answer worth 14 points. Just 1 was worth 8 points, 5, 2 points, and 7 plus 1 point. Name a former Canuck who has won the Cup in the last 5 years. OEL earned 34 points. Gustav Forsling was the number 3 answer, worth 16 points. Roberto Luongo was the number 2 answer with 21 points. Jonah Gadjevich getting some love as the number 4 answer, but with just 7 points. There was a decent spread actually somehow, which I was actually a little surprised about. But anyways, what is the best BC vacation spot? The number 1 answer, I think Harmon came up with it, was Whistler, worth 23
I said
points.
Okanagan.
So that means, technically then we got the same answer.
You said Okanagan too?
I said Penticton, which is in the Okanagan.
Okay, so a lot of people answered. So 16 people answered Okanagan, 5 people answered Penticton.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, if it comes down to it, I'll figure out how to. It doesn't matter.
We still
but I was
won,
like,
but yeah.
You won. You won. You may have won by 16 less points.
And you listened
So-
back. How'd you get Whistler?
Well, I didn't listen. Oh, yeah, I guess I don't know. Yeah, I didn't listen back close enough, I guess. Well, I was under pressure, okay? Anyways, you guys won. Take your win. I'm making next week pretty tough. So
This would have
you
been
guys are ready for it.
controversial if it was closer.
Well, also if I was the one producing right now, Quads would be yelling and screaming about how I'm trying to screw him out of points, and
No, not if we
this
won.
is
Not if we won. But
protesting.
if we did it with Jacob would be like, oh, sorry, you guys lost by 1 point, and I'm not giving you any for Okanagan. Anyways, here we go. I'll get the next survey out soon. It's going to be out tomorrow. Jacob, I might do the same thing I did last week and just get it done after the show.
Sure.
And then
it
it'll
can
be
up
out
in
in the
audio
podcast.
pod.
So if you're listening in the podcast, just look in our episode description because the Family Feud survey might. Actually, I don't have time to do it. There's no way it's going to be there.
Tomorrow.
I forgot I have something to do after this. Yeah, it's going to be out in tomorrow's episode. I'll have it done. Okay, let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends at the Vancouver Canadians. The Seas are back on the road to close out the first half of the Northwest League. They're in a tight pennant race and holding on to first place with a couple games to go. They could clinch a playoff spot this week in Eugene. The Seas are back at the Nat next week, opening up a long homestand with 9 games in 10 days. It is Women in Sports Night on Tuesday the 24th with an appearance from Hazel May. Fireworks on Thursday the 26th, a nooner at the Nat on the 27th, Marvel Superhero Day on the 28th, and Celebrate Canada Day on July 1st with a 1:05 p.m. first pitch and bucket hat giveaway. The Nat is going to be rocking next week. Don't miss out. For tickets, call 604-872-5232 or check out CanadiansBaseball.com. All right, Harm, I had a couple things. We were talking about the Abbotsford Canucks already. Would really like to see them get it done, but I did want to dive into these comments from Connor McDavid. Again, there's a lot going on, so I don't want to make any sweeping claims like, oh, it's the talk of the hockey world, but really, it is a big thing that people are talking about, and it came down today when Edmonton Oilers captain Connor McDavid was asked about his future in Edmonton. Remember, he's extension eligible on July 1st. Here's some of what he had to say.
Which one do you want, Quads? I've got 3
You just pick
different
whatever you
clips.
want.
Okay, I'll pick one for you.
As you said, yeah, it's only been a couple days since the season ended. Take some time to regroup. Talk to my agent a little bit and family and all that, and make some decisions whenever that time comes. But there's no rush on anything like that.
Headline: No rush, says Connor McDavid, who doesn't want to sign
The
with
more
the Edmonton
interesting
Oilers.
one was, I think Jason Gregor had maybe asked a question, and it was about the unfinished business.
I've got that one as well.
That is the more interesting one. That's the one that's been making the rounds, and people are kind of like raising.
We're gonna
their
get to
eyebrows
both.
about.
I told Jacob to get all.
Okay,
of them.
I didn't know. I
I've
thought you
got that one ready.
I thought you were just planning on playing one of them.
No. Let's play the second one since Harm set it up in his own little way there. Let's play that one, Jacob.
This core has been together for a long time, and we've been building to this moment. All along. The work that's gone on behind the scenes, the conversations, the endless, disappointments and some good times along the way, obviously, as well. We're all in this together, trying to get it over that finish line. With that being said, ultimately, still need to do what's best for me and my family, and that's who you have to take care of first. But of course, there's unfinished business here. Yeah.
Okay, Harm, you want to talk about it? Why is that one so interesting for you?
Just though, with that being said,
He might as well
the
have
way
said,
he
"Yeah, we're all in
framed
this together for now."
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna sensationalize this and say, "Oh, Connor McDavid, it feels uncertain." To me, how I read it was that's pressure on management that, hey, get your act together. You fumbled last offseason when you let Broberg and most importantly Holloway was the really easy one to match. When you let those guys go, didn't upgrade the goaltending, and a lot of their signings last offseason didn't pan out. Get this right, because I want to win, and the supporting cast I have right now isn't at the caliber of the Panthers or even close to it. So that's how I kind of read it. I didn't read it as, oh, McDavid's not committed to staying in Edmonton long term. But even the way that he framed that entire answer, it wasn't a clear, I love it here in Edmonton. And look, part of it is posturing and just when you're publicly commenting on your future, it's always wise to kind of leave the door open a little bit. It enhances your leverage. So again, I'm being careful not to read too much into it, but how I interpreted this was, all right, he's putting a little bit of pressure on management that, hey, I need a cup for my legacy. You guys need to get it right this summer and build the best team possible around me.
I looked at it and I just thought about when Leon Draisaitl said the exact same thing. Like, word for word. Like, our friend Zach Lang over at Oilers Nation, if you could pull it up, Jacob, he tweeted this out, that it was an exact quote. This is what Leon said when he was talking about his expiring contract. It was, I'm going to do what's best for me. And then, of course, they signed a contract shortly after that. That got done not that much longer. It was ahead of the 24-25 season, obviously. And with McDavid, I just look at it the same sort of way where it's like, yeah, you know what? It's probably not going to get done on July 1st. Again, like I said, Leon got done in September. Probably not going to get done on July 1st. And I think he made that abundantly clear. He's definitely going to want to see what gets done this offseason. He didn't say exactly that, but that's the way I read into his comments, the same way you just said about management needs to get it right. But ultimately, I'm not looking at this and saying, oh yeah, he's gone. Like, I think it would have to take like a pretty abysmal offseason for him to actually be like, I'm not signing an extension. Write this one down, Jacob. Connor McDavid will be extended before the season starts. Maybe not even a hot enough take to put it on the list.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hot enough take to put on the list.
So you don't disagree. It's going to be done. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I was hoping you'd disagree with me a little more, actually. So I don't have much more to say on that.
Barring a catastrophe, right? And it is funny,
like
by the way.
Deal for Trent Frederick?
Well, that I don't like, but also the Oilers being investigated for their LTIR use, according to Frank's report, and the potential for retroactive punishment. That would be so funny. Years of Vegas and Tampa exploiting it, and the first time a Canadian team does it,
that would actually
they
infuriate
potentially
me.
Get hammered. That's
it's not
so
funny. I would be so mad.
I find that really funny.
No, it's not funny. I would be so. I'm just mad that the report's even out there that they're investigating. For those that missed it, Frank Saravalli over at Daily Faceoff reported that the league is still looking into the Oilers starting Evander Kane on LTIR to finish out the season, and then he played game 2 of the first round. I'm sorry, but game 2 is throwing them off the scent. What about all the Vegas and all this Tampa Bay crap where guys are coming back? Game 1, it's like, no, 3 days ago, no, he couldn't play. And yes, we would have been ineligible to play him because our team's over the cap. But no, game 1, he's ready to go. We heard nothing. It was crickets for years. And like you said, Harm, as soon as a Canadian team does it, but apparently, Edmonton doesn't count. No, who gives a crap? It's all about Florida, baby. Who cares about the Oilers? Give me a break. This could be the Canucks. This could be any of these teams. And this is horrible. This is awful. And just even if the NHL walks it back and it doesn't amount to anything, it is ridiculous that this is even a consideration that they're, we're going to investigate. Like, get a grip. Get a freaking grip. If this actually results in anything, this is the most unserious league in the world of all the sports. And I mean, a lot of times we already say that about the NHL, but this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, yeah, we're going to let you cheat. Yeah, whatever. We're going to let you do this, but whoa. Settle down. You guys can't do this. With Evander Kane, who's like not even that great of a player. Like, what are we talking?
Okay. You're not wrong at all, but I don't think there are going to be many Canucks fans feeling sympathy for Oilers fans after the Luongo recapture penalty and how many other teams got away with that. The Canucks have already felt the pain of being unfairly picked out. And given how many Canucks fans routinely root for the Oilers' downfall, I think a lot of people will find this a little bit funny, even though in all seriousness, they shouldn't be punished for it.
And I think the more infuriating thing about the LTIR penalty, the thing you're talking about, and again, just to rejog everyone's memory, let's go back to that dark place. Roberto Luongo announces his retirement, and the Canucks get punished for a contract that was legal at the time. They had a lot of money backloaded into that contract. Was it backloaded? No, front-loaded.
Front-loaded, yeah.
They had a lot of money front-loaded into that contract so that the AAV would be down. They did it so that the contract was super long, even though they knew Luongo probably wouldn't play that long. And then he retires instead of going on LTIR, and they are punished with the recapture penalty. They eat it, whatever. Then you start seeing some of the other ones. The big one was Shea Weber with the Nashville Predators. That was going to take up a $24 million cap hit on the Nashville Predators salary cap. Again, that is the territory of like hamstringing an organization. Like you can't operate as an NHL team if that happens to you. The league realizes that and they walk back everything. They change all the rules, but only after the Canucks had been punished. So yes, the Canucks were the only team that were punished by that, and that is ridiculous. You're right, but I don't think the takeaway from that should be, oh good, let's see more of that. Let's see more of that kind of stuff. No, it shouldn't be. But you're right. I'm sure there's not going to be much sympathy. I'm not saying I'm sympathetic. I just think it's a joke.
Again, you're not wrong. And I'm curious to see, there's been some speculation around the next CBA, and there was a lot of chatter about how that could get officially announced shortly after the Cup final or pretty early in this offseason. And when that new CBA takes into effect, there's been speculation around there being some kind of soft salary cap around the playoffs to mitigate the LTIR loophole that teams have kind of been taking advantage of. I'm curious to see what the exact mechanics of it are, because it isn't just as simple as we'll count the face value AAVs for your playoff lineup, because when you trade for guys at the deadline, because contracts and cap room is sort of calculated on a daily basis, if you acquire a $9 million AAV player at the deadline, he's not a $9 million cap hit anymore if you acquire him nearly 2/3 of the way into the season. So you can't just use their original AAVs. But I'm curious to see, and I think it's good for the sport if they are able to find some kind of soft salary cap that can account for these kind of shenanigans. It won't be easy mechanically, but I'm at least glad that they're doing something about this, because let's be honest, over the last few years, it has started to become a little bit out of hand.
Mike Lavalley in the chat, Tampa was $18 million over the cap on their last run. Tampa was the most egregious one. Vegas just does it every single year. So anyways, if all it took was the Oilers doing it for this to be the end of it, where the league says, okay, we're going to be on this. And this is the thing, the Oilers even had the wherewithal to put him in for game 2. Like,
yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I was like
what are we talking about? That it's like, yeah, Nikita Kucherov made a miraculous recovery. Yeah, Mark Stone made a miraculous recovery just in time for game 1, but 3 days ago, you should have seen him. Dude couldn't get out of bed. Like, what are we talking about? It's ridiculous.
That's the most fired up I've seen you in a while.
Whatever. All right. Let's get to
one final thing on the Cup final.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny. First, respect to the Panthers for letting all their depth guys and scratch players raise the cup first, especially a lot of first-time Cup winners that didn't have
Nate Schmidt, former Canuck, got it first. Nate Schmidt got to take it first.
But I thought it was so funny that their third-string ECHL goaltender, Evan Cormier, who has never played an NHL game for the Florida Panthers, I found it so funny that he got an opportunity to lift the Stanley Cup before Brad Marchand.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, that's
great.
As I was noticing one by one, and again, Marchand's won a cup before, so you could understand it for certain guys. Like, okay, Gadjevich gets it, and some of these guys know shit. Schmidt, obviously, he hadn't won before, but then when you see an ECHL goaltender raising the cup for Brad Marchand, it's just a funny picture.
Goes for a skate around the whole rink. Because Sasha Barkov talked about it after too. He said like that was their decision as the leadership group. They've got a really good culture down there in Florida. That they got a good practice facility. They got a great culture. But what Barkov said was we decided, since they won last year, a lot of those guys were on the team last year. The guys who had never won a cup before, they were going to get to go first. So of course, like I said, Nate Schmidt was the first guy to get it passed to him from Barkov. And they passed it to an ECHL goaltender. That's really funny. I'm glad you pointed that out. I didn't actually realize that they let the Black Aces skate around with it. That's awesome. Speaking of Black Aces, we had one anyone else that I wanted to read. It was from
Ty David.
Thank
like
you.
early in the show.
Sweet.
Been holding on to it.
And Jacob actually did the legwork for this, so thank you, Jacob. The question was, are there any Black Ace players from the Panthers that could join the Checkers? It's Magna. Jacob Magna.
Jacob Magna.
He can join, but
I don't know if he will.
We don't know if he will, because here's the thing. He was part of. He got to lift the cup 3 days ago. You think they're gonna be like, "Hey, get your ass to Abbotsford"? I don't think so. If it goes back to Charlotte, maybe they'll say like, "Hey, yeah, go to Charlotte and help us win a Calder Cup as well." And again, I don't think the player would say no. He was papered at the deadline, so he's eligible for the playoffs.
Well, so yeah, he played AHL games after the deadline. He was already in the AHL, and then Florida used him, I think, as an emergency call up. But then you're allowed, 3 actual call ups after the deadline. So I think he was originally an emergency, and then they kept him as one of those 3 call ups, and he stuck around. But he played the vast majority of his season with Charlotte. So I think it's possible that he might agree to go down and be with his guys that he spent the bulk of the year with. But also, like, that Charlotte Checkers team has a lot of depth. They have, like, much like Abbotsford, they have capable American Hockey League players in the press box every night. So it's possible that Magna just enjoys the parade in Fort Lauderdale and does not end up rejoining the Checkers.
All right. Jaimito Frog in the chat said, I like Quad's passion. Big Hog Hockey said, Quad's fired up for something bad happening to a rival team. Yeah, I'm trying not to sound like an Oilers fan or anything like that, but it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And as I say that as a hockey fan and someone who covers the sport and enjoys the sport, I think it's ridiculous. And it shouldn't even be a conversation. Okay. This one from Trouble on Demand. Has anyone won the Stanley Cup and the Calder Cup in the same year? Jacob responded and said the Devils and their AHL affiliate in 1995. And of course, that was the team that, who was it? We were just talking about it, where he won. It was a Canucks assistant coach. Was it Scott Young? Who was it that won both cups?
I can't remember now. I remember us having this conversation.
It wasn't him. It was McLean, I think. Am I right, Jacob?
I believe so. I'm looking it up.
Damn, it wasn't him. Who was it? We were just talking about a guy who won both in the same year.
Yeah, you're right. We were just talking about it.
Yeah, but who was it? Oh, Kevin Dean. It was Kevin Dean.
Kevin Dean. That's
okay.
it. Yeah.
I looked at all 3 assistant coaches before I got to the answer of Kevin Dean. Okay.
Yes.
Anyways, yes,
Yeah,
he was part of those teams. He played for both teams, like good amount of regular season games, and he also played playoff games for both teams. So he's a two-time winner. Jacob, book Kevin Dean. Get him on the show.
That might be more difficult than you think it is.
A little bit, yeah. Well, I know how difficult it is. But anyways, okay. We have any more? No, we don't. Let's get to our...
One more thing. Speaking of mini dynasties being built, me and my friend in our pickleball league, dude. So there's
a segue.
Dude, there are 3 divisions in our pickleball league. There's beginner, intermediate, advanced. Me and my friend signed up for the advanced one. We went 22-3 in the regular season. We swept the semifinal last night, swept the final last night as well. Won the championship. This is unprecedented level of dominance. 22-3 in the regular season. I'm retiring. I feel like that's so dominant in 1 year that I mean I don't even need to win a second back-to-back or win a three-peat for this to be considered a mini dynasty.
Okay, so I'm sure you know this, but a good portion, I don't want to say large, but a good portion of our listeners came from the Vancast. And I'm sure a lot of them only listen to the Vancast. And you came to Canucks Convo and they said, Harman Dahl, I like his takes. I'm going to go listen to Canucks Convo. You've been doing this show with me for 2 years now. Any Vancast listener out there is just like, is Harman talking about his pickleball tournament on the podcast? Is that what's happening right now? Those conversations never happened on the Vancast.
Yeah. And it's funny because Faber and I first started playing like 3 years ago.
Oh, that's right.
And we weren't good in the beginning. We really weren't. And pickleball has this reputation of, mostly older people play. And yeah, if you go community center drop in, or if you look at the outdoor courts, it is a lot of seniors, and we weren't good in the beginning. But Faber and I stopped playing pretty quickly. I kept playing though. And the league, I should clarify, the league we're in isn't full of seniors. We weren't beating up on
I was
grandmas and
about to
grandpas.
ask.
No, no seniors. Only people our age.
Mm.
These were people with athletic ability.
Oh,
But
wow. Shot at the seniors for some reason.
but I mean, hey, I can't take all the credit. My friend he's like a qualified tennis coach. So he's really, really good. And he also helped me out with a couple of just like technical things that made a huge difference in my game. But yeah, that was it funny. Just I'm not signing up for it again. I'm signing up for a new sport now.
I wanted to play pickleball when it was all crazy. I was like, I'll do that. I'll do that. And the courts are popping up all over the place. You see them everywhere now. Like tennis courts, it's a big problem actually. The tennis community, I'm hearing people complain about it. Is that tennis courts are all getting switched to pickleball courts, and the tennis players like, where do you want us to play? The answer is nowhere.
I sympathize with those people because I also enjoy playing outdoor tennis, and I usually only play pickleball indoors.
Yeah, but I can't get behind pickleball because like I heard what the sound is when you hit the ball. I can't play a sport where that's the sound. I
find it satisfying. I actually kind of like the sound.
That's crazy. Jacob, get a pickleball metronome for the show while Harmon's talking for next show. Okay. Nick Pocek in the chat said Harm complains about baseball talk and then brings up rec pickleball.
Hey man, I swept. Me and my friends swept and won a championship last night. I think this is fair game, especially since we're past the hour mark. I didn't bring this up at the start of the show or anything.
Oh boy. Ed said start a Canucks Convo pickleball league. All right, we'll have to do it.
That was the most unconvincing, like quads. The people should have seen. People on the pod should have seen the reaction where it was the most like, yeah, that's not happening.
Oh boy. All right. Let me tell everybody about Greta. Then let's do our Bet 365 bet of the day, and then let's get out of here. Harmon's got to go train. Okay. By now you know that Greta's a great spot to watch the big game. Not all big games because Harmon played last night. But did you know it's an even better spot for your upcoming party or event? If you need a venue for a team building or summer social event, check out Greta. They've got the street food menu, they've got the arcade, and of course, they've got the bar. It's always a fun time with plenty of options. Make Greta your spot for your next event. For more info and to book your event, go to gretabar.com. Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Are you doing were you telling me beach volleyball or spike ball?
Yeah, I usually play spike ball in the summers too.
Are you getting ready to do that?
Yeah, that actually gets really competitive too. That I haven't won before. We've lost 2 years in a row in the semifinal, but
that I know gets competitive because I think I told you this as well. But like the summer of COVID, where like you could only spend time outdoors with friends, we had like probably a solid group of like 6 of us. But then there would be different people that rotated in with us every day. Like, yo, my buddy wants to come. This buddy wants to come. And anyways, we ended up having like 10 to 15 people a day. And some of the people you didn't know very well, they were like, mutual friends. And those got heated. Those got so heated. And spike ball is so much fun. So yes, I know how heated spike ball can get. And that was just me playing with buddies. And I can't imagine. But yeah, we'll live stream your next, pickleball, next spike ball game. Okay.
0 viewers.
Okay. Speaking of 0 viewers, the NHL season's over. So now it's time for baseball bets for the rest of the summer, folks. Tonight, the San Diego Padres are taking on the LA Dodgers. The Padres have a very young pitcher in what's his name? Ryan Bergert, I think his name is. I like the young guys when it comes to baseball bets. I like taking the young guys. I believe in those guys. Yeah. Ryan Bergert. I shouldn't say very young. He's my age. He's 25. He's played 1 game. No, he's played 2 games. No, he's played 3 games. No, he started 3. Okay. He's got 19 innings pitched.
Goodness gracious, Quad.
You're
really providing a lot of
insight.
Of insight, but also, you're about to make a bet here and people are going to think this guy has no idea what he's betting on.
No, I do. Watch it. 0.98 whip on the year. He gets the start against the LA Dodgers tonight, and the Dodgers are heavy favorites for this one at minus 270 odds. We're taking Padres money line. Like, people are sleeping on the Padres this year. And you know what? For that matter, the Giants too. the NL West is a really tight division, and I don't think people expected it to be, and I think people don't really realize how tight it is. Like the Dodgers are only 5 games back, and I think the Giants are only 4.5, and it was a lot closer than that even like last week. So I'm taking Padres money line. This Dodgers team does lose games. It does happen. It's baseball. So I'm taking Padres money line plus 220 odds. You can get that over on Bet365, proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Wherever your bet is.
I was quickly gonna ask, did your Ohtani strikeouts bet hit?
No, he was an opener in that game, which is so that means he pitched 1 inning. And he did not hit it. It did not hit. So always look into it. Always look into why those lines are set the way they are, because he was just an opener for that game. But we'll be taking some Ohtani bets soon, not just yet. This segment was a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use the code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, we'll wrap it up there. For my co-host Harman Dial and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Wajelli. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.